What's up, soldiers? Thanks for watching today's video, Programming for Strength, Daily Undulating Periodization. Daily Undulating Periodization, also known as DUP, is a common and pretty popular way to program to get stronger, but also bigger and more powerful. So in our previous video, we talked about linear periodization, which is the method of programming that increases intensity and decreases volume over time. Now, with that linear approach, we have certain focuses on each individual block. So you might do 4 weeks of hypertrophy, 4 weeks of power, and then 4 weeks of strength, and layer it that way over a 12-week program. But daily undulating periodization works on different elements in every session and then different days throughout the week. Okay, so why is this useful? For several reasons. One, it is a method to possibly prevent plateaus because we're giving your body a lot of different stimuluses over an individual day, over an individual week, and then when we stretch that out for a full program over that entire cycle, right? So intensity and volume in DUP vary every session, okay? Because we're getting multiple training goals over the week. So this is commonly run in powerlifting with like the big 3 squat, bench, deadlift, but this can apply to any lift. So if you're in strongman, you could use an overhead press or even like a log press if that's what made sense for your training. Now, some other benefits to this are because you're repeating movements with changing stimulus with different volume and intensities, you get a lot of technical reinforcement. And that's nice because it's good to have technique at lighter weights, but when we're challenging ourselves over the course of a week through heavier loads, medium loads, and lighter loads, there is a skill component involved in every one of those intensities. So you get a lot of quick reinforcement of how to execute lifts properly at different weights. So what does this look like? Here's kind of a sample 3-day program of what a DUP week might look like. So let's just take a press, a squat, and a deadlift. Now remember, we're working through hypertrophy, power, and strength. Instead of going block by block by block, we're gonna have some element of that in each lift throughout the week. So let's start with day 1. So press 4x6 at 75%. When we're talking percentages, this is percentages of your 1 rep max for each lift. So when we're doing a 4x6, this is a power-based scheme, right? So 75% is also, in general, a power-based percentage to work with. So we're getting a power stimulus on the press, 3x8 at 70% on squats. This is a little higher rep. You could even do 10 or 12 here. And at 70%, this makes this a hypertrophy day for squats. And then finishing with deadlifts, 5x3 at 85%. So this is a strength-focused effort for day 1. So again, we have a power focus for press, hypertrophy focus for squat, and then a strength focus for deadlift, okay? Now, what you would do as you go throughout the week is change those intensities around. So your second day would look something like this. You'd have 3x8 at 70% for your press. So once again, that's a little more of the hypertrophy focus. So now by day 1 and 2, we have our power focus and hypertrophy focus on the press already. For the squat, 5x3, 85%. That's our strength focus for the week here for the squat. Following that up with the hypertrophy focus from day 1. And then on deadlift, 4x6 at 75%. That's again that power range here. So we're kind of checking box by box by box and then finishing it out with day 3 where we get that third element that we're missing. So we'll have the press 5x3 at 85%. That's your strength focus. Squat 4x6 at 75%, your power focus, and your deadlift 3x8 at 70%. That's your hypertrophy focus, right? So over the course of the week, you are gonna get all of those adaptations. And some people would argue that this actually tends to happen quicker because we're always doing kind of these full body workouts. You get a lot of blood flow. And if you follow like this type of 3-day structure, you get more recovery. Obviously, you already should know this and apply this, but programs only work as well as your recovery and your systems work. So you might be getting more recovery days, but make sure you're hydrating, eating well, and sleeping well to truly take advantage of all this. But as I was saying, each day gets some blend and element of power, strength, and hypertrophy, and it just cycles around, right? So there's a couple of different ways to progress this from here. Remember, we stick within percentages and rep ranges for different focuses. Like hypertrophy, you could start bumping this up to 10 reps the next week or 12, right? Or you could do things like with your deadlift for strength, the next week you could drop to 2 reps at a higher intensity. Or even on press, you could bump up to 5 by 5 or something. So there's a lot of different ways to progress from here, but just following those principles of, in general, this is not exact, there's always a little wiggle room, 8 to 12-ish reps for hypertrophy, 4 to 6 for power, 1 to 3 for strength. So we're looking for somehow to continually advance this type of cycle over the long term, right? As always, you should always have a deload somewhere implemented in there every 4th or sometimes 6th week, but that's covered in a different video, okay? So this works because you have continuous adaptations. When we talked in linear periodization, sometimes you are prone to plateaus because you're repeating a lot of the same stimulus. And that works really, really well for a long time for some novices and intermediates. But at some point, you're going to start getting diminishing returns because your body is used to what you're giving it over and over and over again. Because we're constantly changing all of these numbers around from day 1 to 2 to 3, you're getting different adaptations. And this is sort of what people would call muscle confusion, but in a more focused strength way. It's not just going in and just doing some different exercise just for the hell of it. This is just different intensities and focuses with intention throughout the week. So this is, proponents of this would say this gives you balanced development, right? You don't just have too much hypertrophy where you're too big and can't apply it. You don't put too much into power or just too much into strength, right? When you're following this type of program, we're evenly working on all of these things together, so they should build up and in theory work together in conjunction. This is a good program because typically it's easy to follow. If you have a program that's already pre-written out, very easy to follow. Now, if you were to try to program this yourself, I really do recommend make sure you do your homework and study to make sure that all your variables are correct in order. Because if you go too far in one direction or too light or too heavy, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. But once you have that formula, it's very simple. One of the reasons for that is this is right here, a 3-day model. So people that are a little short on time, your full program could be these lifts right here. You could do a full head to toe, full body strength training program with just a press, squat, deadlift, and repeat over and over, and you would see gains and success from that, okay? So for some people, the time efficiency is extremely important. Now, if you have a little more time, if you have the luxury for that, this allows some good room for variability, right? If you wanted to do some extra things like some arm work, ab work, conditioning, you have a lot of wiggle room where as long as you're following all these things here, you can kind of plug and play a little bit here and there with your accessories. You just got to make sure that the meat of the workout is correct with your sets, reps, and percentages, right? So DUP is really an awesome way to train, but with a lot of programs, there's, sometimes a blend of linear periodization, sometimes a blend of DUP, and then in another later video, we'll cover conjugate. There's always kind of a blend of, different elements here. So this is just to kind of help you understand how programs work, how you can use programs for your success. So if you've not done so already, please check out my other video on linear periodization, and then check out the video on conjugate programming and the conjugate method as well. So thank you for watching. Have a championship day.